September 1893. An unknown Indian monk stood before 7,000 strangers in Chicago and spoke just four words: Sisters and Brothers of America. Before he could say another word, the entire hall rose to its feet. This is the story of Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath Datta, born in Calcutta, 1863. A brilliant, restless mind who questioned everything he was taught. He took that question to the great religious teachers of Bengal, even Debendranath Tagore, father of the poet Rabindranath Tagore. To every one of them, he asked the same thing: have you actually seen God? Not one gave him a straight answer. At a temple in Dakshineswar, he put the question to a little-known priest named Ramakrishna. This time, the answer was different. Yes, I see him as clearly as I see you, only far more intensely. But Naren wasn't convinced so easily. Ramakrishna's trances, his talk of visions, his worship of the goddess Kali looked to Naren like superstition, maybe even madness. For months, he stayed away and tested every word the old priest said. Then, with a single touch, Ramakrishna sent him into a state so complete that Naren felt his own universe dissolve. It was the first crack in his doubt. Then, in 1884, his father died without warning, leaving the family drowning in debt. Naren, barely 21, walked the streets of Calcutta job to job while relatives moved to seize their home. Some nights there was nothing to eat. In his anger and grief, Ramakrishna told him to go ask Mother Kali directly for money. Naren went to the temple 3 times. 3 times. Standing before the image, he forgot the money entirely and asked only for wisdom and devotion instead. Ramakrishna died in 1886. Narendra gathered the scattered disciples, took vows of renunciation and walked away from everything. No home, no possessions, alone across India. For years he walked village to village, sleeping in huts and on railway platforms. He watched millions of his countrymen live and die in crushing poverty, and saw men turned away from temples and wells for the crime of their birth. The wound never closed. One of the few doors open to him was the Raja of Khetri, who took the wandering monk in as a friend, and before he ever set foot in America, gave him a new name, Vivekananda, the bliss of discerning wisdom. At India's southern tip, he swam out to a lone rock at Kanyakumari and sat through the night. By morning, he knew exactly what his life was for: wake his country up, make the world listen. A parliament of world's religions was gathering in Chicago. He had no invitation and no money. So the Raja and a circle of devotees pooled their funds, betting everything on a wandering monk nobody in America had heard of. In Boston, nearly broke and weeks before the parliament even opened, a chance meeting on a train led him to Professor John Henry Wright of Harvard. Wright refused to hear about credentials. To ask you for your credentials, he said, is like asking the sun to state its right to shine. Then he paid Vivekananda's way to Chicago himself. He arrived in Chicago with the wrong address. Within days, he was out of money, sleeping nights in an empty railway boxcar. A stranger on the street finally took pity and pointed him to the parliament's organizers. Backstage, he was terrified. He had never given a public speech in his life. Out of turns to give away on September 11th, he touched the earth, silently prayed to Saraswati, goddess of learning, and rose to speak last. 4 words in, the entire hall was on its feet in applause. Not for anything he'd argued, but for the sheer warmth in how he said them. American newspapers named him the Cyclonic Hindu monk. For 3 years, he toured the United States and Britain, lecturing on Vedanta to packed halls and founding societies that still exist today. In London, a young Irish schoolteacher named Margaret Noble came to hear him speak. Within 2 years, she gave up her old life entirely, followed him to India, and took a new name, Nivedita, the dedicated one. She would spend the rest of her life teaching Indian girls and fighting for India's freedom. He returned to India in 1897. Crowds met his ship at the harbor and pulled his carriage through the streets by hand. The wandering monk nobody had funded a return ticket for came home a national hero. In 1897, he founded the Ramakrishna mission on one radical idea. Feeding the hungry and healing the sick was itself worship. Service to the poor was service to God. To the youth of India, he left one line, quoted to this day in classrooms across the country. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Years of relentless travel and illness had worn him down. He told his students plainly he would not see 40. On July 4, 1902, he taught a full class, walked in meditation for hours, and died that evening at Belur Math. He was 39. In under 40 years, a man who once demanded proof that God existed had convinced an entire generation on 2 continents that the divine could be seen and served in every human being. Today, his birthday, January 12th, is celebrated across India as National Youth. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and join us for more tales from Kathavana, stories that outlive time.